at the club in my OGN suit.
Popping the collar of your blue or your red blazer, actually.
It's kind of pink, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know what it
Light
looks
red.
like on stream.
I liked Max's one a lot better, I have to be honest, Papa.
Hey,
The blue,
I like mine.
the blue suited him very well.
Look, I've gone from flowers to a pink suit. I'm popping off.
Yeah.
Speaking of popping off, Aurelia, 100% contested. The other 100% contested champion is the Talia. For some reason, we saw a mid lane Talia. That seemed like a mistake. Where was my jungle at? Speaking of junglers, Kingzone follow our advice and say, you guys have already tried Karthus Nunu. Maybe no Master Yi for Umti.
Yeah. They saw the Karthus Nunu, they saw the holes in the plan, and they said, we could defeat that, but no Master Yi for Umti. Please no. Another champion that's very highly contested, not 100%, is the Vladimir. He's going to be banned out here, as well as that Camille. Also see a lot of Shen nowadays. That was the first ban. You see it a lot down in the bottom lane, actually, in the support role.
That means Nocturne priority will still be pretty high, though, Valdez, because Nocturne Lulu can kind of work in a similar way to the Nocturne center. Nocturne strikes me when there's big champions available. We've seen Rise priority, but as an answer to the Vladimir. Where are we going in terms of priority? Zoe is the mid laner. There's the most blind pickable that is left open as well. So with all these pieces of information out there, remember, it's not Peanut in the jungle. It is Cuz he's facing. They consider the Graves. They flash the Graves, but they will be locking in the Zoe. But like we said, is about as safe as can be. However, BDD has shown a couple of fun picks against this. One of them in the past was the Echo that was awe-inspiring. Maybe he's just going to be on Lulu duty, though, as Cuz says, well, yep, thank you very much. I'll take the Graves.
Yep. Scooped that one up really fast. Did not really delay that one at all. It's going to be interesting to see if BDD goes for the hard counter, if they want to do something weird. But with the Graves coming in, you could certainly think that he will go a bit more standard, a bit more countery. Let's see if he does do that. Umti thinking about the Nidalee.
Is it going to be hunting season for Janair? It is. Okay, picking for the 1v1 matchup. This is definitely whoever hits the first blast gets the win. It's a very fun skirmish matchup from Umti. The opposite of going exhaust Nunu and standing next to a Karthus. He's leveling up and going back to his aggressive side. We didn't see a lot of Nidalee in the recent past, even though she was at a good power level because Banner of Command was so common, and Nidalee looks at a banner minion and says, Smite, I don't have anything else.
Yeah.
Now with Banner of Command changed and also hot fixed on this patch, expect more Nidalee, and this will be a treat to watch.
Yeah. Lucian picked up as well. That is one of the big 80 carries that's still left available and is actually pretty strong. He did lose on that pick, but he is going to try it once again, and now here we go.
Give it to me. Give me the
Ashe
Ashe.
again.
This is what I want to see. Prey on Ashe. A match made in heaven. If Deft can do it, surely Prey can. They're heavily considering this. It would be a first-round Ashe pick, and okay. Keep it simple, I said to Kingzone after 3 games of Mordekaiser. Sadly, didn't do it in that game 3, but they do it here.
Yeah. For you guys who have been sleeping under a rock, Prey, very famous for his Ashe play. And, well, we saw it once at a Deft. It's proven that it can work up against Janair, no less. So I'm very excited to see if he can actually put that into play here instead of the Mordekaiser.
And I'll go on record and say that I believe that Prey is the best player of Ashe in the history of this game. The original champion, his skill shot accuracy on the arrow. He's had 2 cross-map arrows, one at Worlds, one in the LCK. And a highlight reel clips in and of themselves. Awesome to see it, but first round, can't expect it would have been a ban, but they didn't want to reveal anything else. Could be the Ashe Lulu was a complete lane. We've mostly seen Lulu in the mid lane in a couple of games in the marksman role. Looking at the bans here, a Soraka and a Tahm Kench ban. Okay, I wonder what that means for Lulu's position, because the Tahm Kench, that's a gorilla favorite.
Yeah, certainly giving a lot of respect to that Lulu mid. They certainly think it is going to go down into the mid lane. You also see bans out towards the Darius on the side of Janair, looking towards that top lane.
What about Jace in the top lane? Because that was actually permanently banned after it was played in game 1 by Khan. They decide to go for a support ban, being unsure of where things are going to happen. And we go on the side of Kingzone. Remember that Braum, Trickery, could be a mid lane. It's been played in competitive play in some of the emerging regions recently. We will see the Braum locked in. Again, could be Ashe Braum. Could be some more hijinks going, because Braum Graves as a duo has been the one where it's Braum mid lane, he goes to supportive build, and that gets a power farm Graves rolling.
Yeah, it's not like the other kind of cheese strats we've been seeing where they pick them together real quick, trying to get that duo as soon as possible. It'd be kind of tricky, you know, with a bit of flex picking with that Lulu, which we have seen a lot in this new meta on 8.11.
Awkward kind of spot for So1. It looks the enemy team doesn't want to blind pick a carry against Khan. Has to take Ornn into Braum, which of course is that soft counter. The Unbreakable just being raised to stop the Call the Forge Guard rolling through. Looking for a support pick as well. Already had the Lucian in the first round. Heavily thinking about the Rakan. Freaker-esque and just locking in Rakan as a power support. All right, Kingzone, show yourselves, reveal yourselves, as the SPO TV subtitle for the season suggests. What's going on with Kingzone? A Mundo for Khan?
Well, I mean, Mundo is just unbelievably strong right now. You're going to be running at stuff like the Zoe, Battle Stars, the Nidalee Spears, right? Mundo is perfect for tanking that, and even the culling at Illusion. I love this kind of soak tank to round out this composition.
And I've been sitting there for a couple of weeks saying, yep, I think Mundo is just a power pick, not just a counter pick. It is strong against the comp. Spirit Visage be lovely in this game. I think this is going to be a Braum mid lane. I see an Exhaust. Why would you take Exhaust on Lulu against Zoe? We'll get the confirmation at 20 seconds. But it's going to be a fun one. And also seeing Khan on a tank, that's a novel thing in itself.
Yeah, the thing about Mundo is that he's a big tank, but there's a lot of skill involved. You have to land the cleavers, and you have to run at the enemy. So he's pretty good at that. Nice swap right before the end. Good call, Papa Smithy. We will have that Braum Graves composition, so a little bit cheesy, non-standard. And we are going to have Ashe Lulu versus Rakan Lucian in the bot lane. Gotta hope that they don't get engaged upon there.
Ashe was a surprise in the first round, but with the Lulu, it's a pushing lane because you have the push of the W and also the Lulu to control the lane. Braum Graves as a duo has been seen a lot. The Korean casters just realized it.
They're freaking
shocked.
out.
They're like, what happened here? Is it a mistake? It's no mistake. BDD, maybe the best mid laner in the world, is going to be on Braum. Just going to be about holding the lane, and Cuz, not Peanut, is going to try and pop off on Graves.
And one of the best, most aggressive carry top laners in Khan is on Mundo, so not your standard Kingzone here. Some parts of it are, with the praise Ashe and Gorilla on the Lulu, but outside of that, very non-standard, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this one. Jin are kind of just going pretty standard for the current meta, you know, outside of that Nidalee that they're going to try to bring into the jungle. We'll have to see if can get inside the mind of Cuz and BDD with the help of Grace and win that 2v2.
It's going to be a treat to watch. Let's see if it works in practice, because the Nunu Karthus, it didn't work. The E-Taric, it did. What about this one?
Let's find out. Let's jump into game number 1 right now. Just kidding. Guys, we're going to cancel the broadcast for today.
Whoa, the Jin fans just got in there anyway.
Yeah. They're cheering. They're getting a little bit excited. We have some kind of pause. Not sure what it is. We'll get that information as soon as possible. Well, sound issue. We got that information.
It's okay. We had a couple of issues over at OGN, so we got some meta issues going as well. They should just flash that every match in the bottom left corner. Meta issue.
Patch issue.
Yep, patch issue. It's going to be an issue that's not going to be resolved necessarily with the 8.12 notes that are out in the wild. Shows not a lot of change. So we're definitely going to have this, I guess you call it musical chairs meta, where it's like, where's the Braum going? Somehow not into the bot lane support role. But it's going to wait through a few moments. If you guys have been eagle-eyed, and I'm sure a lot of fans here, the hardcore fans who have been watching kind of what is happening in some of these non-LCS regions. Again, Braum Graves has been played professionally. A lot of duos have been practicing, mid-lane jungle duos, playing it in solo queue. We're hearing that game sounds are a bit of an issue for the players, so hopefully that'll be resolved soon. But the moment you saw an exhaust in the mid lane, I think the Braum was coming through, and it's Braum Graves. That seems to be the two together. Braum X, not so much. Braum Taric, I actually haven't seen much of, but Braum Graves has been a duo people are liking, and given the fact that the Zoe and the Ornn compositionally are going to hate dealing with the Braum, I think it could be a really fun thing to track.
How do you feel about the fact that Kingzone come in after losing, and even though Graves is not your standard, straight-of-the-line 80 carry, they kind of go with Graves and Ashe with a couple of supports and one big soak tank in the front, and they're it's not exactly against the meta because they are doing this weird Braum Graves thing, but they are putting a lot of their eggs in the baskets of a couple of AD carries that have to get farmed up.
On a simple level, putting a lot of eggs in the attack damage basket as well. But kind of the secret thing, the thing you're sleeping on here is that at some point, Mundo is going to have a wild growth on him and do a lot of AoE magic damage and kind of carry a lot of the burden of team comp, because Mundo at some point outscales Lucian Zoe, assuming they don't fall way behind like they did in the last couple of games of their first series. And then it doesn't really matter what your mixed damage types are if Mundo's zoning 3 people with the wild growth slowing them down. You think about what they banned away the Tahm Kench. It's just a single tank. They saw the Nidalee revealed. They saw, okay, you're countering our Graves with Nidalee, or at least trying to contest the Graves or the skill matchup. You knew it wasn't a tank jungler. It's a pretty squishy lineup, and that's where you can say, okay, this is not the worst time to go really one damage type.
Yeah. And I think after today, a lot of people are going to agree with us in saying that Mundo's pretty strong. After seeing these compositions after the draft,
he's undefeated in the LCK.
He's 3-0 right now, for you guys who are just curious, and he's pretty damn strong. He's the reason why we both like to ban him a lot in solo queue, and I think he definitely deserves that. And I would expect this game to also highlight that fact outside of the other 3 games that we've seen. So we're into match number 8 here. Round 1 of the LCK 2018 Summer.
Thank you for joining us today. Do join us for our second match, SKT versus Gen G, a Worlds rematch, which kind of feels surreal with how much has changed since the fateful day in Beijing last year. The World Cup will be competition later. That kicked off last night. So let's see how we can do in this particular game. Will Kingzone have normalcy remain and lose to KSV, I guess now, of course, Gen G, and then go on a win streak? Or will Jin Air be able to show us something different? As level 1, remember, it's Braum, so they roll in, they took over the bot side of the jungle, and this is the start for Kingzone. Expect them to be proactive when they have this Braum Graves duo.
Yeah, they got the Braum Graves duo, but look at this. Bottom lane here for Jin Air, trying to be a bit proactive, getting that ward in. Trying to win an early trade, but it is Ashe, so it's pretty hard to do exactly that. But I do like Kingzone coming in here, level 1, trying to already take control of the jungle.
Looking at the runes here, double Guardian on the Lulu and the Braum. I'd like you guys actually to shift your attention to the top of the screen. Notice we have a new feature at Spo TV. On the left there, you notice a golden Scuttle Crab. We do have a Scuttle Crab counter here as well.
It's just another genius move by our PD. He's like, okay, Scuttle Crabs are really, really important nowadays in this meta. Why don't we just keep a counter of them? So mixing up the production. Really, really liked it when he told us that in the group chat.
And it's going to be really important in some games. We've seen games where the team has just picked strong lanes and a Camille, and we say, look, another Scuttle Crab. You'll start to see the numbers to actually put together with the picture. So cool to have that. Good job, Spo TV. One step ahead of the curve. Speaking of ahead of the curve, Coz and BDD are duoing. Again, this is an extension of the Mata combo, as I like to call it in Korea, because they're all about abbreviations. That's Master Yi and Taric, for those listening at home. The Nunu Karthus as well. Now we have Braum for lockdown, the Graves that gets farmed up from it. Story behind these duo farming comps with mid and jungle is about respawn timers and also a lot of nerfs to mana costs and the ability to push in waves. You usually don't miss a lot of creeps if you go for this duo. You just get a super farmed hyper carry, and the intention for this game is that it's the Graves.
Yeah, and it goes back to what we were saying before about Cuz coming in here instead of Peanut, right? He's being put in this position where they're giving him all the farm, and he's actually being, he's getting all that pressure to be the real carry of this team. So props to Cuz stepping up to the plate. Also notice that he hasn't taken his blue buff at all just yet. It's very protected over there. You talked about the bottom lane that's pushing all the time. It's going to be nearly impossible for to get over to that blue buff.
And it's not just as simple as knock in Master Yi and Taric, or lock in this case, Braum and Graves. You need also a point of power on the lane. And by that I mean one winning lane with priority somewhere. The Mundo for the start doesn't have AoE pushing, so he's going to sit back and just farm under turret. But going for this Lulu, Ashe is saying, we will push, we will win bot lane. Winning trades as well as a bit of a short on the engage by Nova.
It's quite nice. They just essentially say, okay, we're going to trade you the top half of our jungle, and we'll take the bottom half. And they'll be just fine with that. You'll notice already Graves up to 44 CS here at 4 minutes.
So the counter to this strategy, to any of these power farm strategies, is to ward camps and contest them. The only thing that Nidalee has done aggressive or forward of center is take away the Krugs, which is the camp they're least likely to go to because it's so far away from the mid lane. So the way you do it, if you are the side of Kingzone, you take 2 camps on one side, go back mid lane, wait for the respawn timers, go bot lane. So they're happy to have bot lane to clear while Zoe was struggling to push in the wave. They're getting basically the maximum farm, and BDD, instead of being on his usual lane harass duty, is freezing waves.
I wonder how that feels to be compared to one of the best, if not the best, mid laners in the world, and now you're playing Braum mid lane.
Well, even Ian was talking about how it was a very weird world where his skill cap was, did I press R early enough on Tarek?
Yeah.
We already confirmed that he put Bastion Link on Master Yi very early. He didn't need to do anything else in that particular game. That's what the meta requires, and I'm sure that's why mid laners are looking at some of the people upset about the bot lane meta and saying, hey, I'm playing support, and that is not what I queued for. I did not queue mid-fill. I queued mid, and then that's pretty much all they want.
I mean, just look at Bang. He had to be forced on a Lulu 2 games in a row, so I'm sure he's also feeling those woes. He's like, they don't trust me to play AD carries anymore. I guess I'm just stuck on support Lulu down here.
My favorite part about this meta, though, is we have, like, game 1. You remember game 1 for Jin Air?
Yeah.
Umti's on Olaf. He's got priority lanes. I'm invading. I'm going to be the carry. They lose that game, and his team's like, all right, you're exhaust smite Nunu now. You know what I mean? Now you can be downgraded during it. You don't even have to be subbed out. You're like, all right, well, we tried giving you options. Now you are the slave of the mid laner.
It's good, you know? Put the junglers in their place. If they don't do a good job, you're just like, okay, you're
They're just like, sub me out, coach, and that. No, you will play Nunu.
We're going to force you to play slave Nunu instead. Oh boy, that's really rough. And you were talking about that aggression out of Umti. We haven't really seen it all too much. He's up at the Krugs once again. I dare you guys to try to gank that Mundo up in the top lane. He is only level 6, but still, it's not going to be an easy task. I
mean, I actually disagree with you. You can kill a Mundo at level 6 pretty easy when he doesn't have any health items. I would argue that Khan is pretty turret diveable if they want it. They have the Orin as well. They don't choose to. Kingzone started off with a red buff steal. The 3rd time they've gone to a different quadrant. They took out the bot side red jungle. They went to their own red side jungle, their blue side jungle, and how about another big buff to return to mid lane?
We've been talking a lot about how this meta really quickens the pace of things, especially after 15, 20 minutes trying to get that lead. But so far, there hasn't been too much action outside of just farming. I feel like that comes from a bit of the passivity we've been seeing from Umti and Grace so far.
What are the Riot support team, or I say the Riot stats team, going to do when it comes to Worlds? They're putting their stats database together.
Yeah.
This CSD problem here for BDD is going to make him look pretty average, given that he's currently 50 CS down, and likely for that to grow. The Flame Horizon will be quite early.
I mean, this isn't just going to be BDD, right? It's going to be pretty much every mid laner, and even the junglers, too, the ones that play the Nunu.
I actually know what they're going to do.
Much.
They're going to ping me and say, yeah, we didn't include those stats.
Yeah, exactly. You just got to uninclude them, I guess. So for the first time, they're going to try to go up against this mini-boss that is the 101 CS, level 8 with red buff Graves. Again, I dare them to do something. I think this is something that they will not try to do just yet.
Doesn't have that many items. You know, he's got enough gold to go back and finish his warrior and then a long sword. But you're right, the timings are early. Free-farmed Graves against some team comps, double tank comps, and like, well, does it really matter? Against this comp with the Nidalee jungle, certainly can do some work, and Prey is also had a whale of a time in what is about the most standard lane we've seen this season.
Yeah, finally back to normalcy in the bottom lane. Although I guess Lucian coming in a big way in this meta is somewhat new. Didn't really see him down in the bottom lane. Probably saw him more on the top side. We might see our first dive as BDD and Cuz were thinking about coming down, but that's not going to happen. Another small thing about this duo of Braum and Graves is that Graves just dashes the wall and Braum jumps to him, and their jungle invades are ridiculous because of that.
They also take Scuttle really damn fast because the CC, of course, makes you amplify damage onto the Scuttle. seeing duo a bit. If you are against one of these strategies, I was going to call it a boosting strategy, but that's probably Kale and Twitch. But if you're against one of these strategies, you just have to come mid lane and help out your mid laner. Otherwise, they never get a preferential bat. They never punish. They can never deny CS. So if you're in solo queue and you're involved in such a scenario, first, sorry, and second, just try to help out where you can.
Okay, well, you talked about coming to the mid lane and trying to help. They're trying to bait Cuz in, actually. Here's Ornn from the top lane. Umti not going to get low, and he misses the call of the Forge God. So BDD nor Cuz, neither of them will be knocked up, and that will be a failed gank.
BDD used his Unbreakable very early in the piece, so that's why the Ornn ult was kind of invited, but that leads to nothing. He could not bait them through, everything considered. BDD's flash is down, but he has his hop buddy in Cuz. Kind of spare any of the blemishes. Cuz comes back, he's spent that gold. This Graves is looking strong, but so far, what does it bequeath? They are down in gold overall as a team. They have a couple of Scuttle Crabs. They haven't started the Drakes yet, and to me, the Drake objective needs to be something they visit, push down in the bottom lane, rotate over either Lulu or Ashe, probably not both of them because the wave will come back, and actually get some neutrals rolling to complement this Cuz, who wants to fight now while he has a big experience and item edge.
Yeah, as you do mention that, they are edging over towards the bottom lane. They are looking for the vision, actually, in the bottom side. You can see the vision pings coming in. And once again, they will be spotted. Immediately, Grace and MT respond. And here we go with that dragon. They hop the wall. And they're going to be able to burst that down really, really fast.
Take it very quickly, and remember in the late game, this Mundo is going to be a handful. He already looks at Zoe and says, hey, got a pretty cool Spirit Visage over here. How you doing? And that's going to be a growing problem. So having that outscale on the top side and a ranged AD carry to give them a reliable piece of damage as well are going to be things that will be useful as the game goes on. Yeah. But otherwise, again, still quite a lot of normalcy. Only gaping difference is just overall gold lead because of the kind of hyper-farming strategy on the Graves that's happening on the side of Kingzone.
Yeah, unfortunately, for you guys who are out there watching, this is still a generic game. Even if it's not necessarily their fault, it does seem to kind of slow down and get pretty passive whenever we do see this team come onto the Rift.
So what should our criticisms be is something that I think viewers at home want to watch, because we've seen the boosting strategy a few times here, hyper-farming up a jungler. So far it's failed basically every time. With the Gothis mid also, that hasn't worked. What we're not seeing from Jin Air is they have an invading jungler. They have a champion that can actually poke into enemy camps over the wall. Hold the point.
Poor Gorilla's going to get engaged upon here, and that's going to about do it. Not much else happens there. I'll let you get back to your point, Papa.
It's anticlimactic, but what we need to see from Jin Air is let's contest some of these jungle camps, whether it's their own, maybe their own Raptors they set up around. They know the respawn timers. Zoe and Nidalee, if they hit their line skill shots, can burst down someone pretty quick. If you just let Graves get every camp off cooldown, it's definitely not an ideal thing for Jin Air. They're giving a very long leash for Kingzone to guarantee farm onto their hyper-farm Graves.
Yeah, I mean, you can already see it, 177 CS at 12 minutes, 45 seconds. And he's not stopping there, looking for all the Scuttle Crabs on the map as well.
And if you do the math, they are actually down in gold as a duo because there's about 100 gold difference. Jin Air have 100 gold more across Nidalee and Zoe than there is across Braum and Graves. Obviously, Braum is very far behind. What you need to understand, though, is having this much farm this early, this item and experience lead on Cuz is about the base stats of being level 11, and sometimes that funneling onto one is more important than having half of a cool item on two people.
Yeah, I mean, generally, the Nidalee will be looking to burst down targets that are not the Mundo or the Braum. You saw she tried to go for a gank down in the bottom lane, but that really did not work. It only got the flash out of Lulu, and so this Nidalee not really so useful so far.
And second part of the point about where the gold is going, does 1,000 gold extra onto Braum make the 2v2 significantly different? Probably not. So it is about having champions who, with very little gold, can have very big impact. Speaking of impact,
Uh-oh, Shield's going to be down here for BDD, pushing on forward. Going to have to eat that spear, his Cuz, and using his ultimate just to get that distance. Here comes Nova from behind, looking to dodge under the turret.
Beautiful.
Here. A double knock-up, and that will be first blood. Over to Nova with the big-time roam. And here's Teddy, actually, from the bottom lane, too, going to pick up that second kill.
We've been waiting 14 minutes for them to actually attack this hyper-farming strategy, and they're attacking it in the biggest way possible. They bring their bot lane, they get 2 kills, they take mid lane turret. Now you can no longer get easy access to all of those minions and monsters. And look at this, Kingzone aren't reacting. They might get 2 turrets.
Nobody comes up here. The bottom lane stays bottom, and 2 middle turrets go down. Even this bottom turret struggling to go down. The turrets just melt in this meta, especially when you got 4 people and you take out 2 of your enemies.
Things can change so quickly. The lead for Kingzone was massive. As now Kingzone are going to have to deal with some bad guys.
Gorilla with no flash here. At least Prey does, but Gorilla is in a lot of trouble. Are they going to just go for Prey here? Actually missing the Ornn knockup. Gorilla going to go down, and Prey all alone here too. 4 on 2. They net 2 more kills, and Jin Air now 5,000 gold ahead.
Jin Air collapsed perfectly. The Ornn ultimate not perfect, but everything else about the play was exactly what is necessary. They are heavily attacking Kingzone. It seemed like they were lulling them into a false sense of security. Nothing for 14 minutes, and now everything.
Oh, MT's got to get the smite. He does do that. Might pay for it with his life here. Ult comes in, but the heal saves his life.
He gets away, wasn't able to pick up the Rift Herald. As you mentioned, I believe he was the one who claimed it, so looks like it will have to fizzle unless a couple of members of Jin Air walk over. It lasts about 25 seconds, I think.
Yeah, they're going over right now. Sohan can easily just walk on over it. Think about how much they just got here. I mentioned the 5,000 gold lead, but it's 2 mid turrets, 4 kills, a Rift Herald, which can open up another turret potentially in the top lane now that Sohan picked it up. And, man, Jin Air just with one fell swoop right after 15 minutes. Huge gold lead.
Passage of play kind of reminds you of Kingzone's failed turret dive in game number 3. A bit later, that was around 5 to 6 minutes. But it's 16 minutes into the game. It's a colossal lead for Jin Air. We didn't see a lead like this in any of the games yesterday. The meta had kind of slowed down a little bit, even though we had one Nunu Karthus game. Really big cost to this play. Kingzone walk up for a respawn on the Drake, but that's 30 seconds away. Yeah. And in that 30 seconds, how about another turret for Jin Air? They're already pretty much got it.
Well, you got 4 members of your team down on the bottom side. It's easy for Sohan to just throw that one out. Doesn't look like he's going to get the turret just yet, but already a huge chunk there. You'll also notice that the bottom tier 1 turret is also super low. And, man, I mean, just all of a sudden, they weren't aggressive at all, but just one good roam from the bottom lane, and they make it work.
And I think we have to also focus on what didn't happen from Kingzone. They got 2 duos, and one of them was not communicating with the other. They weren't communicating to say bot lane's coming up as Kingzone will continue to power farm. Again, lulled into a false sense of security is how this game feels like it was going, because Kingzone were getting the gold where they wanted it until that one point where everything worked for Jin Air and everything came apart for Kingzone.
Yeah, and the beginning of that fight was also a little bit messy too. BDD and Cuz trying to invade once again, and you saw that BDD got caught actually on the Braum without a shield, and just the poke damage from Zoe and Nidalee that would normally not be too much of a big deal for a Braum was a big deal because they were a little bit too aggressive there, and that's what started everything. The Grays have to use his ult. Nova might be in a lot of trouble here, though, trying to jump to his ally. It is Rakan, after all, and 4 people commit to 1 person. Rakan's not going to be your guy.
And even the Ashe arrow goes wide. The one standby of this comp is Prey on Ultra Comfort, and even that doesn't work. The sinking feeling, I'm starting to feel it, Valdez.
Well, everybody talks about how the game is over at 15 minutes. I don't want to say that, but it's looking pretty dire for Kingzone. Prey going to be engaged upon here. Jin Air not able to actually execute and get a full kill, but a lot of damage poking here underneath this turret.
That means Kingzone's going to back away. We can already see that this top lane turret is all but down. The siege of Zoe, Nidalee, Lucian doesn't need to be examined with a fine-tooth comb. It's a very strong siege trio. Khan is getting there. He's free farmed. He's the only one who can hold his head high, and he wants to kill Orin.
He's got full health. I don't think the turret's really going to do much to him either. Sohan is surviving, and now the ultimate is down. Nice flash, but Khan going to respond with 1-2, and will be able to get out there. Nice solo kill. Khan trying to hold things together.
And he's on the Mundo. He's the one also off comfort, but very nicely played. Of course, you know, not the most mechanics with Mundo. A couple of cleavers hit, and your insane health bar will do the rest. Mundo still has this looming threat of outscale. We don't have much Gathering Storm in this meta. Mundo is a Gathering Storm in a champion. He will show up and be able to shrug off any damage at all from Nidalee and Zoe in particular, and Teddy. Good luck with trying to burst him down. However, so much has gone wrong around him that that may not matter.
Yeah, I mean, you get such a gigantic gold lead that the Blade of the Rune King pretty standard on Lucian, but also the Morella Nomicon is going to come out a bit earlier for your Zoe. And all of a sudden, if you begin to win a fight and Khan's ultimate runs out, you might just be able to burst him down with that gold lead that you do have. Name of the game right now for Kingzone is just continue to try to scale, get that Mundo to get up to a ridiculous 4 or 5 items. You know, a Gargoyle Stone Plate plus a Warmogs on top of the Spirit Visage would make him nearly unkillable regardless of what items you have. And then you'll also have your Graves and your Ashe eventually online.
He wants to avoid building armor for now because health and magic resist accounts for the rest of the lineup, and just have somebody else deal with the Lucian. That's exactly what he would prefer in teamfights. As you can notice, he does have to be semi-respectful around Teddy.
Had he landed that cleaver, I think he might have considered going a little bit further after using his ultimate, but the lane swap and nobody to cover the top side means that another bunch of free gold does go over to Sohan up in the top lane. Oh, nice flash there. Good response out of means that he will get out alive.
That one was certainly better from Prey. Getting a summoner out of the Nidalee means the next siege attempt from the Nidalee might have to be a bit more mooted because he has to expect having no escape summoner. Kingzone pull back. They are able to pick up some CS. You're right, it is a snowball meta, but it's not just Mordekaiser bot lane, no late game on the side of Kingzone. They have 2 ranged AD carries, 1 true marksman in the Ashe. They have a Mundo who does have the big outscale advantage in the late game. It is not game over at 15 because their comp has a bit more insurance. It's just the gold lead was pretty severe, and it felt like Jin Air, if they keep rolling around the right objective, should be able to outmatch Kingzone.
Yeah. We always talk about what teams can try to do to push their advantage once they're ahead, you know, not let the game you know, roll on for too long. That's very common in the old meta that we used to have, you know, try to get down an inhibitor turret before their Kog'Maw really gets online, try to get a Baron and end the game. So Jin Air, they're going to be looking for some of these objectives. They already do have that tier 2 in the mid lane, which really helps out in securing vision for that Baron.
See what Jin Air's next move is. They need Orin for initiation, or the Rakan.
Oh,
speaking of Rakan,
no vision in your river, and unfortunately, Praise is going to disappear off the map. Gorilla 2, even a teleport just in case, and that's going to be 2 kills, and it should be a free Baron.
And it's around the Baron. That's the important part. Look where the control ward line is for Kingzone. It's a shallow one, and yet they are pushed up with no information on the enemy. That's a straight-up mistake from Prey and Gorilla. They made a few of those at MSI. This Baron, it's going to die fast.
A few of them in this game, too. You talked about how no communication earlier on to let them know that Lucian and Rakan were coming up in the mid lane when 2 people went down there, and now this is going to be a Baron. You can see BDD and Cuz are trying their absolute best to try to get some kind of objective in the meantime, but I talked about how you're going to accelerate this game. A Baron at 22 minutes and a half is pretty damn good for that.
It's a really good interview with BDD after MSI, where he talked about, you know, the team not being able to pick up the victory, his tears after losing, and the big takeaway message from things he said was, I asked for Aurelia from the coach because I didn't feel like on the more utility champions I was able to impact the game. Kind of think about those words, seeing him on Braum. The one player who could hold his head high after MSI was BDD, who had some great games. He's on this Braum. He's relying on the process. He's relying on the coaching and also the scouting. And you see more and more games like this when it is this new meta, and I'm specifically focusing on the hyper-farming Grave strategy. This new meta doesn't necessarily work for every team, and it wasn't even the meta that caused this face check, though. This is just a straight-up mistake from Prey and Gorilla.
Yeah. looks flashy when everything comes together, but it only came together because Prey and Gorilla were so far up the lane. No vision, very easy for Jin Air to come up and rotate. And now with the Baron, looking to push into the mid lane at 23 minutes just about. And they got a pretty good Siege comp to do that as well.
Hurricane, Blade the Ruin King on Ashe. A Graves with plenty of AD. There is good wave clear, so it's not going to be just a complete give up of any inhibitor turrets. But this is what Jin Air's comp does best. They are very strong around the siege. You try to get the most you can. You might even use a zoning or an ultimate to try to get people to move away. Have to wait for the Braum to raise his shield, so the value there, unfortunately, is a little bit difficult, but they do have strong siege around that. Of breaking the base, that's proving tricky for the side of Jin Air.
Yeah, might have to do it down 2 lanes, or just try to go for some of these outer, or rather inner turrets first before the inhibitors, and looks like they're going to do that now, pushing into the bottom side. But Kingzone have done a good job of grouping up as 5 and clearing the waves every time they come in.
Like what Ornn is doing, he actually brings up the minion wave with the Baron buff and puts down his promote very, very early here. So Banner of Command is down on that cannon. Is the hotfix banner. If you're joining us for the first time this week, we are 8-11 all champions available. So now we are no longer on the live patch. Just nice little burst there onto Cuz, but the hotfixes are live.
Yeah. Zoe pretty fed, but Lucian actually 4-0. Zoe going to be a little bit more good for this kind of sieging, and you can see the sleep goes on to Prey there. Means that with that bannered up Baron minion, they will get a nice turret down as well.
The Trouble Bubble hitting is a really big problem, not just for the obvious burst combo, but it makes BDD decide, do I use the Unbreakable here? And then suddenly Ornn follows up afterwards. They have to be very judicious, and when they use it, BDD desperately wants to hold on into his E for the Ornn ultimate.
Look at what Khan's doing in the front there, just tanking up the banner minion so it's not onto the turret, but he can only do it for so long. He's going to have to ult. Prey also gets chunked down, as does Khan afterwards. And, well, here we go. The turret's going to melt. And down should go the inhibitor as Jin Air finally find a way into the space.
Great target acquisition there meant that Lucian with the Blade of the Ruin King and flat percentage pen onto the Mundo, able to actually chunk him out. So no longer could they cover that lane. They lose 1 inhibitor. Khan finds a big minion wave. Kingzone are very much in crisis aversion territory of trying to buy time, trying to look for a 5v5. But so far, no initiations needed for Jin Air outside of the fix.
Lucky for Kingzone that this is only going to be an Ocean Drake. Isn't going to be anything like a second Infernal, which would probably just seal the deal here for Jin Air. I mean, you look at their carries right now, 4-0 Lucian with 3 items and 1-0-3 Zoe with 3 completed items. Going to be doing quite a number. The only member on Kingzone who has the comparable kind of item level is the Graves, of course, with nearly 400 CS at 26 minutes.
But what does it really yield? You look at the items he has, and none of them are mind-blowing. He can shrug off and fight and magic damage a bit longer with the more Malmortius. But I was skeptical of Braum Graves when the first time I saw it in solo queue. I believe it was Lava and Songwon that I saw doing it in Korean solo queue, because Graves' item scaling, it's good, but it's not mind-blowing. It's not Master Yi Tarek, let's win the game with just the Yi at a certain item timing. To me, it's about, all right, we have map control and over-farmed high-level Graves. Now we can fight for everything and take every neutral. But they are down in Drakes. They are down almost in Scuttle Crabs. They're 1 ahead in the Scuttle. Of course, down in the Siege as the team comps have gone. So will this Graves actually yield? Cuz will have to make me a believer.
Talking about that shield, Trouble Bubble comes down onto Cuz. Not going to use it just yet. Going to respect the Ornn here from Sohwan. And I guess they've kind of just left Teddy on split pushing duty in the mid lane, at least, up against that Mundo. But yeah, it's just very standard pushing here, even without the Baron. They're so far ahead at 9,000 gold that they can just banner up a minion and try to push in the turrets, and there's not much that Kingzone can do.
And as we see an Ashe arrow, the engage is Mundo running at them. Bless his heart, he's doing that now. He is level 16 Mundo. But now his ult's down.
He does something, His ult is down, as you mentioned. He did something while it was up, and, well, now they're just going to lose another turret.
So low. Maybe he bought 10, 20 seconds, but he didn't do any more than that. Someone has to answer. The big wave of minions in bot side. Prey tries to go a CS lead over the Lucian, and work towards the Infinity Edge. This is the other side of the coin. We said crit carries were dead. Deft played the Ashe, but that was a very different game where they were severely ahead in the mid game, and he could go Infinity Edge third. He's only got 650 gold. He's nowhere near an Infinity Edge. Very expensive from the item timing of just a BF, so maybe he'll have to go elsewhere. He's got a longsword in the inventory as well for something like a Last Whisper. They're basically needing to get to 60,000 golds. Look at the top right, 44.2k now. It doesn't really matter how much Jin Air has in the next one. Obviously, it's 80,000, the game is over. But if they get to 60,000 gold, and Ashe has 2 items from here, some sort of Last Whisper item and an Infinity Edge, and Mundo is full build, maybe you can win a fight. But with where the game is at, if Jin Air keep applying pressure, it'll never read Kingzone 60,000.
Yeah, would have to agree. I mean, especially in the way that eventually his spears aren't going to be doing too much in the late game, especially if they're hitting Mundo. Pretty much 0 damage against that champion. And you also got that Braum to help out. So if they get a really good engage in the late game with an Ashe Arrow and a Mundo, certainly things could go their way. But right now they've got to hold on, and the biggest problem for them is the second Baron right now.
And to be clear, at no point in the drafting or in the meetings where they made this comp was, all right, well, we could still pull it to late. That is not what you picked this comp for, is to stay ahead of the curve. It's all about cheating the curve and getting items and levels on the Graves. This is emergency time for Kingzone as Baron is down to 8,000 health.
Good Sleepy Trouble bubble onto Cuz, but they will still respect Kingzone. They're not just going to try to burst this down and let Cuz try to get some kind of steal. Instead, they'll just burst them down with the Zoe and force them back into the base because they're right now losing some Nexus turrets.
There's so many things to respect. Lose-lose choice for Kingzone. Do they all in on a speculative Baron play, or do they go back to base? Mundo slowly walking there. They're going to check with just the redemption. I don't know if Hawkshot is available or not, but now Baron is not going to be focused on by Jin Air, but they can do a lot of burst damage too.
Yeah, even MT right now, he's fed up enough too to do that burst damage, but in comes the Zoe. Cuz going to get really, really low. Will be blocked on the call of the force route, but here comes Mundo. If he can survive and get the engage, perhaps, but Teddy with the culling is going to push BDD back, and Khan has no help in the back line here. He will almost go down. Flash on forward, the wild growth keeps him alive, and Khan will not die in the entire engagement.
You can't cast a curse on Mundo. He lives forever. He does live in this. He will be full health by the time they release here, but BDD and Cuz are desperately low.
BDD especially, not much he can do. At least the Sleepy Trouble is going to miss, but they have wards on Cuz and Zoe bursting forward. But Grace himself getting a little bit low on that Zoe and low on mana, and I think Jin Air is going to have to back off of this one.
Mundo's a pretty cool champion in the late game. Cuz would just love a back, and maybe Khan has provided him one. Oh boy. Mundo just about stops this Baron going down. Khan really can't be criticized for anything this game. He's done his job at every moment. Still hasn't died, has a big CS lead over the Ornn. The Baron doesn't go down. Kingzone by themselves the smallest sliver of a chance to come back into game one.
Yeah, we were talking about how this Baron is going to be incredibly important for stopping the push, and it buys them enough time, right? The inhibitor comes up, everybody survives, nobody dies, they don't get bursted down in the back line. Even BDD going down might have meant that Jin Air commit to the Baron and they just get it at the end of the day.
And Khan, in a roundabout way, bought Prey and Infinity Edge because he did not allow the Baron to be taken away and allowed the recall to happen as well. So yep, there's your sliver. There is something on Prey that might change the next fight.
We have made it here to 32 minutes. The longest game we've had in summer. I know it's still early in the first week, but it has been about 39 minutes, I believe. So haven't even broken the 40-minute mark, but perhaps this is the game to do it. Certainly Kingzone is putting on a good fight, and
are you sure, Kingzone, that you can fully commit to this? Jin Air are umming and eyeing a little bit, and Kingzone damage is pretty high now, so they will get the Infernal.
Seems like the umming and eyeing is going to help out, especially with the Hawkshot, right? You have the Ashe, you can get that kind of vision in at certain different times, and really helps out in getting the vision for seeing if they start the Baron.
And Kingzone do have the old SKT buff. They are still your champions.
They get the flash there out of Grace on that Ashe Arrow, and Khan, he's doing his job. Nobody can really get him, and look at Nova in the background. Is going to survive,
Nova went for a flank and then realized his team was out of position. The Ornn wasn't coming, and he had to actually use the grand entrance out. The old SKT buff of you guys are that multiple-time world champion, we have to respect you, is now applied to Kingzone, our 2-time LCK champions. You think that extra moment, you don't fully commit on the Baron, and they give over an Infernal and positioning on Baron, largely on reputation.
Yeah. And also that Hawkshot just doing so much work. The Ashe eventually going to come online with the crit, but even just that vision. But here we go. Hawkshot is down. No vision right now. Blue Trinket is going to check it, but 3 members back in the base and nobody really around to steal it means that will be that Baron going over to Jin Air.
Not a disaster for Kingzone. It sucks to give up the Baron, but with the delays, they've bought double Infinity Edge on their side. They got an Infernal, which is permanent stats. I'm in no way endorsing giving up a Baron, but the moment 2 recalls went through, Cuz walking up and suiciding, trying to steal it, that would have been the wrong move. They fully recall. It seemed like a team decision to give up the Baron after the checks. Now let's see what happens, because Jin Air is still way ahead in this game, yet there are more items on Kingzone than perhaps there should be.
We might have a bit of a perfect storm, right? Khan getting a ton of items, the 2 Infinity Edges, and no flash on Teddy or Grace here. Here comes Khan from behind. There's your engage. Can they burst him down? Lucian, Teddy trying to do his best, but the knock up there from the Braum. Arrow's going to hit Sowan in the front line.
Big engage!
From the Rakan in the back line. That should be able to do it. What a play there from Nova. It's going to get 3 members down from Kingzone.
That should win the game. Beautiful engage from Nova. This rookie support back into the lineup. They're going to try and hard push this. The death timers are long.
That should be able to do it, man. It was looking like Kingzone had a chance in that last one with all the items, with the decent engage they got with the Mundo, but unfortunately now with Baron and 2 banned up minions and 3 kills, they are going to be able to get the 2 Nexus turrets. Can they kill Mundo this time? That's the real big question. No ultimate will save him, and they will take the Nexus. And Jin Air Greenwings looking to take the first game here up against Kingzone.
Jin Air slay the giants of Kingzone, take them down. Very nicely done by them. That 14-minute moment where they got everything. They got the duo in mid. They took down the bot lane duo as well. Kingzone were looking so calm, so farmed. Things were going to plan. But just like we saw with Nunu Karthus multiple times, when the mid lane turret rolls down, that inner turret goes down, and the plan goes away, that's where things really change for the Kingzone comp. Jin Air made almost every right decision, and even though Khan could delay and you thought maybe, just maybe, there'd be 1-5 for Kingzone, it's slammed down by Nova.
Nova looking really calm in the booth, and I'm sure he knows exactly what he was able to do towards the end. I mean, it wasn't even just that big play in the last team fight, but it was the double knock-up underneath the turrets to secure both kills at 15 minutes. The engage down in the bottom lane and every other time on the Rakan, showing that his Rakan is really up to snuff here.
It's really good to see from Jin Air, who looked pretty lifeless against KT. Really good victory for them. Only game 1, but there will certainly be at least some smiles. We're going to see the replay. They bought time for some items, but Khan is still going to be fallible to some degree. But watch Nova, who's at the back of the fight, and then
so
instantly finds 2. The Orin ultimate at the same time. No BDD. Look, BDD himself in stasis, not there.
It's praying Cuz, too. He gets the 2 most important people in one fell swoop, and he charms the other 2 as well, just for an extra bonus.
Beautiful
really
stuff
nice
from Jin Air. They went much more standard than Kingzone. We thought, Kingzone, there's a ranged AD carry. Praise not on Mordekaiser. However, they went for the Braum, and from there, it went down for Kingzone.
Fantastic news for Jin Air. Now they just got to close it out in a potential game 2. Kingzone will need 2 wins in a row, of course, to take this back from Jin Air. But guys, we are going to go to about a 10-minute break. When we come back, game number 2, Jin Air Greenwings versus Kingzone.